Space is the place. Shares of space tourism firm Virgin Galactic skyrocketing this year. What's up? Andrew runs the Procure Space ETF. The symbol is UFO. Get it? Andrew, it's not just Virgin Galactic. Other space-oriented stocks, particularly satellite stocks like Iridium, Maxar, they've also been strong. But everyone's focused on Virgin Galactic. Give us 20 seconds. Is there a fundamental reason why this stock is up more than 200% this year, or is it just suddenly we're all in love with space?
I think a large part of it is supply-demand. There are only so many shares on the market. It's the only pure-play space tourism company out there accessible for public investors. And there could very well be a short squeeze as well. As you have more institutions initiating coverage on the stock, there's a lot more attention on that name, and it seems like a lot of that action has been buy-side.
And then you get some institutional. Morgan Stanley, when they did that note a little while ago, interest just exploded, and they say analysts don't have any influence anymore. In this case, they did. Morgan Stanley moved the stock.
Space is open for business. It's an investable industry now, and yes, it has moved a lot as far as Virgin Galactic, but having an ETF gives you exposure to many companies from around the world doing all different things in different stages of their own life cycle.
And I keep talking about the fact that space is a theme this year. Maybe it's not as big as pot was, last year, thank goodness, but it's a theme. And people are interested in space. People are interested in disruptive technologies, in AI, in robotics, in genetics. And so space is now in that group of things that are attracting investor interest. I think it's wonderful. I think Elon Musk has helped almost single-handedly revive the space program. But I would also note, we've talked about this many times, satellites are also moving. Iridium, Maxar, Loral, they're all been up, and there's interest in that. What's the technology aspects of the satellites as part of the space program?
So a lot of the analysts that are covering the space industry that are expecting growth, and Morgan Stanley says $1.1 trillion by 2040, Bank of America $2.7 trillion by 2045, they believe it's going to be from broadband internet. So you look at different technologies like big data, connected devices and Internet of Things, blockchain, 5G, cloud computing, all of those things are data-intensive industries, and satellites are being utilized as these toll operators for the digital data superhighway. So going forward, these satellite companies might become a much bigger role.
So they're the method by which all of this stuff is transmitted, essentially. They're the pipes, essentially.
In many cases.
They're like the old Comcast of the day. We have pipes on the ground. The satellites are sort of the pipes in space.
That's how you're getting data from A to B in many of these examples.
Yeah. Am I accurate on that, Tom?
Yeah.
Is that the right way to look at it? I just made that up a minute ago. It's the Comcast of space.
Exactly.
Yeah, probably a bad idea. I may retract that, or I may attribute it just to you. You said it. I had nothing to do with it. All right, I deny everything.
But it is the business of space. It's more than just space travel, and the whole idea about us being able to put all these satellites up there to be able to watch everything that's going on, and as you point out, data, as we pointed out earlier, being able to watch areas of the world like China where we're not getting a lot of information. Satellites can tell us a lot as far as what's going on there.
We've seen that in China. We've seen that with Iran. We've seen that with the wildfires in Australia. It's weather. It's it's climate change. Satellites are helping us.
And when you think about everything we're looking at, essentially we're using satellites, particularly those wildfires that we saw.
Exactly. You look at Uber. It's a GPS technology that would not work without satellites. Most people don't realize yet how important that is for our infrastructure.
Now, how do you just tell me about the fund? The fund owns basically satellites as well as Virgin Galactic. You rebalance because all of a sudden Virgin Galactic is like 14% of the whole portfolio now because it's gone up so much, right?
It's
and you have to rebalance at some point, right?
So the fund rebalances quarterly and reconstitutes semi-annually. So that's all things that are taken into consideration during those times. But we didn't start off with Virgin Galactic as a 14% weighting. It just performed so well in relative comparison to the fund.
And I've noted that there are underperformers like Intelsat and Globalstar, and some of this you said has to do with how they're giving out spectrum for 5G.
Exactly. So for the 5G spectrum auction, it just recently came out towards the end of last year that the U.S. was not going to allow foreign companies to bid in that auction. So companies like Intelsat, SES, other European and other foreign satellite companies took a hit because of that.
Yeah,
but
in the middle of November, they all got killed. They just dropped like crazy.
Exactly, and another reason for UFO to have a diversified exposure to many companies because it's tough to pick the winners.
Is there anything else besides satellites that you want to put in this? I mean, there's a sort of lack of investable vehicles here, isn't there? Isn't that the problem?
So you look at
it's like Bitcoin was 2 years ago. Actually, it's like Bitcoin still is, but
So you do have a lot of very large players, but they might be more diversified. So your typical aerospace and defense names. So United, the United Launch Alliance is a partnership between Lockheed and Boeing. Most people don't realize that, but they're trying to help us get U.S. astronauts into space without relying on Russia. There's all these different groups that are working together, whether it's a small group or it's a VC group within some of these larger firms, and you do get exposure to many of those in UFO.